So I get asked a lot if any discs that I've reviewed have really made my bag. And the quick answer to that is no. Not really. Nothing really has made my bag after reviewing it. But the reason behind that is like a little complicated. Let me explain. You see, most of the discs in my bag have been in my bag for a very long time. Like probably the newest discs that have been in my bag, the least amount of time have been my putters. Probably because they are the youngest molds in my bag, and that is the Luna. Even these Lunas, they're first run Lunas. So they've been in my bag since they released in the first place. Like I'm a huge Paul McBeth fan, and when he came out with the prototype Luna, I bought one just for a collection, but when I felt it in my hand, I was like, this feels really good. So I bought more. And I've got first runs for my putters, and then I have, this is like soon after the first run, and this has been in my bag since I got it as well. And these things are like super stiff, and they're both all really beat up. So like this one flips up and flips no matter what. Like you can be throwing a 150-foot upshot and you have to hyzer flip it to get it there. Same with these, if I threw them, they're just super beat up. Then I have I think this is a 2020 Tour Series. It's the first big Z Luna that they came out with. This one used to be a stable Luna. Now it like flips up to hyzer flip. So I don't really have an overstable putter. So that brings me to like the other putter in my bag that like is new. You wouldn't believe me that was my first try. So I kind of lied at the beginning when I said that no discs that I've reviewed have made my bag. It's most part true, but this is the one exception. The Pro Discus Jokery. This thing, so nice. And it didn't replace anything in my bag. It's more filled a gap per se. Like with this disc, this pretty much fills the gap between my Lunas and my zones, or zone in that matter. This thing I can rip on, I can trust that it's not gonna turn over even if I have like somewhat bad form. This one's starting to beat up a little bit, so I need to put a new one in the bag, but these things are just so stable and they fly pretty dang far for how stable they are. Like it's shocking how far these fly. I also like to use this for forehands on holes where I like don't really want the hookup that a zone gives me. I want it to finish a little straighter but still have like a good amount of torque. That's what I use these for. These hills are killer. But those are like the youngest molds in my bag. Everything else is older. Like this T-Bird, for example, it's like an old Echo Star T-Bird. This thing I have had in my bag since about like 2015-ish, maybe 2014, I don't know. That's 8 years. This exact disc has been in my bag for 8 years. So I know pretty much exactly how it's gonna do in any situation. So if I screw up a shot, like I know it's me screwing up a shot and not like a situation to where I throw it and it didn't do really what I thought it was gonna do, if that makes sense. And not just like that disc being old in my bag, T-Birds in general have been old in my bag. Like I started playing in 2012 with DX T-Birds. So I've been throwing T-Birds since I started playing. And because I've been playing since around then, I have a very like old school mentality to my bag. And that means like mold minimalism and just disc minimalism in general. Like I only carry like 19 discs with me just because I want less weight on my back. And when it comes to the rest of my fairways, like I just have T-Birds. That's it. This Echo Star T-Bird is pretty flippy. It will turn over for me. That last hole was a tailwind, so it didn't really turn all that much, but this is pretty much my turnover understable one. Then I have this old school Star T-Bird. Again, this one's interesting because like it's penned Star T on the bottom instead of like TB or STB. And it's interesting because a lot of the old T-Birds, they don't have flight numbers, they're pre-flight number. And because they're pre-flight number, they have patent numbers on the bottom. Well, this is not pre-flight number. It has flight numbers on it, but it's also still has patent numbers on it. So this is, I don't know how many T-Birds that overlap in that time frame. So I've got a good stack of these to replace them with. And out of the box, this thing hyzer flips dead straight and gives me a stable finish at the end. This is the T-Bird that I threw, and a T-Bird like this for like the accuracy competition in the Creators Cup. but also on the like baseball field hole, I would hyzer flip this over the baseball field to finish towards the basket, which worked in the singles round and didn't work in the match play. And then my last T-bird being this like just standard star T-bird is an old Jomez Pro. I got this at the Glassblown Open back in 2017. Might have been 2016. I think it was 2017 though. This is very overstable for a star T-bird. Like I had a video where I was throwing in like 30 to 35 mile per hour winds, and this thing just like dead straight, as long as you throw it clean, just dead straight in that. It doesn't really turn much. It doesn't fade a whole lot, but it doesn't turn. Like that's how stable this T-bird is. And that's my fairways. Other than that, I just have this Sexton Firebird. It's nothing special. It's just last year's Tour Series. I used to have 2016 Sexton Firebirds because that's like when I got into Sexton Firebirds and throwing 2016. I had those in the bag until I found out how much they were worth. And I was like, I don't need to throw these anymore. So I sold them and then just got the most recent run. So other than that, I have a Glow Firebird that I usually throw in my bag if it's like 35 mile per hour plus. And I have a few other discs that I throw in my bag as well that I'll get to. Actually, I missed one putter that I forgot to talk about, mainly because it's also this one. This disc has been in my bag since 2012. This exact disc, and it's the Crystal Zone. This thing is just nice and overstable. I can use it on forehand approaches, backhand approaches, winds. It's been in my bag since 2012 and it's still as beefy as ever. And it's a Crystal Zone, not a Crystal Flex. It's also so old it has no tooling on the inside. It was before they even did the tooling on the inside of their discs. I don't know if they've changed the mold since then, but this thing is just as overstable as any new Zone that you can get, and it's been in my bag for 11 years now. And these two are another mold that I started playing with. So I started playing Rocks and Buzzes as the mids and T-birds as my fairways, and that's what I have. Like I have an old Pro Rock 3. It's like it's a end of a factory store stamped one. After Paul won his second Worlds, he got a second Tour Series disc. First one being the McPro AVR, second one was the McPro Rock 3. And before they made the McPro Rock 3s, they made one run of just Pro Rock 3s, and they released them on the factory stores, basically like the prototype of the McPro ones, because before then the only Rock 3s they sold were Champion ones. This is one of those. It's just an end of a factory store stamped Pro Rock 3. And it's beat up really nice just turnover, touchy shots. I use this in the Creators Cup as well. Like there was one hole in the singles round and I just like I hyzer flipped it or threw it flat down like a left gap, and it just turned the whole way down the hill all the way to the basket and gave me a really nice, easy like 10-foot birdie. That was this disc. As well on like the long par 4 in match play, I use this as like an anhyzer around the trees to get to the basket, to get up and down for birdie, to match Hunter. So that's the one. This thing is my baby. If I lose, I did lose it once practicing for the KC Wide Open, and I was really sad, but I got a call back for it and I got the disc back. So thank you for you who called me. You were a viewer of the channel, so I appreciate that. But other than that, that's the only Rock 3 I have in my bag. The rest are all buzzes. I've got this teal Z Buzz. It's not a bar stamp buzz. I got this from a friend who had it beat up basically, and it has one of the old Z circle around the ring. Wow. And this thing is just beat up, hyzer flips nicely to pop up and finish dead straight, or if I really crank on it, it'll turn over and finish to the right for me. I use this on a lot of like short touchy shots. So like at the Creators Cup, for example, there were a few holes that were they're pretty much like tunnel straight shot putter holes, and I usually just pulled this one out because I wasn't feeling super comfortable throwing my putter, so I would just lightly hyzer flip this down like 250 feet or so, and it would usually work out pretty well. So next I have like a standard hyzer flip Glow Buzz. This one I just dyed Buzz Lightyear on the front back in college. I've had this in my bag since 2013-ish. Sophomore year of college is when I did this. So gotta love cloudy days that just keep going back and forth. And this one's just like hyzer flip, standard Buzz stuff. Then I got the 4-claw Buzz. These I bought 2 of, one to collect, one to throw. This one is the one I would have collected because it looked sick, but this was the one that felt the best in my hand, so I ended up throwing it. And so now I ended up throwing both of them because this one is starting to get a little beat up, so I have started, there are times where I put in that green one. Both of these I threw for the accuracy competition with the Glow Buzz for like, I think the like 300-foot shot, I want to say, maybe. Yeah, I hit the bag with one of these. I don't remember which. So I forgot to talk about wind discs. And the wind discs that I put in my bag, I'm talking like when it gets to like 35 to 40 mile per hour plus, then I just put a little bit extra in my bag to fill the slots that I can't really cover with stabilities in my bag. Like first being a mid-range. I used to carry a Justice in my bag, but I played a whole round. I played a whole round in like 45 mile per hour winds and never used it once. I always used my Zone or my Firebird when I needed really beefy stuff. So logically, I was like, why am I carrying an extra mold, an extra disc in my bag when I don't need it? So I took it out. But I do put an overstable Rock 3 in my bag. I know that might sound weird, but it's like, I have like a McBeast Challenge Rock 3, and that one's like, imagine like a Rock X3, an overstable Rock X3 with a little bit more glide, and that's this Rock 3. Like it came out very domey, just very overstable for a Champ Rock 3. And I would mainly carry that more for like where I would throw my Jokery, but I can't because the Jokery is too short now with like a 40 mile per hour headwind, but I don't want to throw a driver that I'll skip. My Rock 3 would pretty much do the same thing that my Jokery would and just give me a straight shot in that kind of wind, more for approaches than really drives or off the tee or anything. I usually would only use my mids for approaches in that kind of wind, never off the tee. The tee would always be like drivers or like a Zone, something like that. Then I would throw in my Glow Firebird. It's very stiff, very flat, very beefy. It's not as beefy as the flat top Firebirds. The flat top Firebirds though, like those are almost too beefy for me. Like I have like 3 or 4 FAF Firebirds, and I just, again in that round I had that FAF Firebird and the Glow Firebird. The Glow Firebird was enough for everything. So after that I was like, I really don't need to throw in my flat top Firebird for that. And then I have 2 destroyers. One is a 4-time Macbeth destroyer, and that's the newest destroyer I have in my collection. So some of my people might get on to me for throwing it because it's rare and old, but that's the newest one I have. All my other destroyers are older than that one. So, and that one's just more like my bright yellow Wraith in headwinds. It's just a lot more workable when it gets to 40, 45 mile per hour winds. It'll turn a little bit, but it's workable in those winds. So when I don't really just want to meat hook. But then I have a destroyer for that meat hook slot in my bag, and that is like an old AJ destroyer. It's just an anomaly destroyer. It literally flies like a flat top Firebird, but destroyer 12 speed of it. It's nuts. Like I had a friend who could throw over 500 feet, and I had him just crank on it, and it just didn't even turn up. It was just like held the hyzer angle he threw it on. It was like for him. It's nuts. That won't turn in any wind unless I really roll my drive. Then it might hyzer flip at that point. Yeah, let's get back to the rest of my bag. Now, before I get into the distance drivers, which some of you probably already know what my distance drivers are, but the main reason why I don't bag what I review is because, like, I've gone through this whole bag. All the molds in my bag have been in my bag for like 8 to 10 years, minus the Lunas and the Jokeries. So with the channel, since I'm reviewing so many discs, I don't have time to spend to get to know a new mold, find the intricacies of that mold, and depend on those day in and day out for events. So usually when I go back to my bag, I just revert back to this because this is what I know. I know exactly what they're gonna do. If it messes up, I know what I did to mess it up. It wasn't like a situation like I explained earlier of like, I threw it and it's like, I could have sworn that that disc would hold up to this wind. I know that it would. And if it doesn't, it's because I rolled it. I just have comfort in these discs that I don't have with any other disc because I just don't have the time to spend with them. I play around with this bag maybe once every other month. It has increased now that I've recently gone full-time, but that's main reason why. But I do want to change that, and I'll explain that after showing my distance drivers, which are, again, old school bag, all Wraiths. So I basically have just 5 Wraiths as my distance driver, and that's all I throw. So I have this one that's really old and beat up, and this one just real big turnovers. Like, it's just understable. If I could throw rollers, I'd probably be able to throw them with this, but I can't throw rollers, so it's not a roller disc. It is a hyzer flipped understable disc, turnover shots, you name it. It's an understable distance driver. Then these two are like my main workhorse distance drivers. If there's no wind, I'll pretty much be throwing these two exclusively. One being a bottom stamped, just stock destroyer. I had another red one that I used in the Creators Cup for just about all my distance driver shots. So anytime you see a red disc, it was mainly this slot in the bag. It flew similar to this, but I lost it recently. That one, I can do whatever I want with it. If I crank on it with a slight hyzer, it'll pop up straight, turn over a little bit, and then give me back. If I don't throw it as hard and it's more control distance shots, I can hyzer flip it to fly dead straight and get it to finish left. I can get it to like pan and like give me a tight S curve, or if I throw it flat or a little Annie, I know and can control a good Annie with it and have it like pan out at the end. I know these wraiths really well, and I have like 3 or 4 of them that are all pretty much the same, because I lost the one that I had at the Creators Cup. It was very sad. Then I have this one. This is just a yellow wraith, and this one's just a little bit more overstable than that one. If I throw it hard, it'll pop up and it might trickle to the right a little bit, but it mainly just hyzer flips up and then gives me a fade to the left. If I throw it flat, it'll drift and come back at the end and give me some pretty good distance. So this one is very like, it's more controllable than that red one, especially if it's a little windy. Then I trust that a lot more than the red one. The red one gets a little squirrely if there's even a breeze. Then this one is like a brighter yellow stock one. This one is just a little bit more overstable than the other just standard yellow one. So if the wind is up, this one will fly similar to that. Or if I have forehand, if I don't feel great about my forehand, which is most of the time, I'll use this one or my halo. Otherwise, if my forehand's feeling really good, that red one is actually really nice for forehands when my forehand's feeling good. And then I got the Halo Wraith. This is just the beefy boy. Stable, trust that it's not gonna turn at all, and it just fights the wind and gets left. But yeah, it's pretty simple. I have 8 different molds, and I think it was 19 discs. I'll correct it on screen if I'm wrong, but pretty simple bag, nothing crazy. But when thinking about it, the reason I haven't switched is so that I can play better in tournaments and stuff, because I know this stuff more, but at the same time, I don't really play events all that much, really. So I thought to myself, it's like, what's the point? Especially since I get to try so many discs. So I thought it would be fun to just like completely change up bag. So I recently decided there are 2 molds that I want to keep. The rest of them, I'm throwing it up and making it up to you whether or not I bag those or other discs. And I have other discs in mind for every slot, which will be the next video. We'll be going through all of those molds of what I think could replace these and would be fun. Then I will put the vote up to you guys to see what I bag for this whole year. Let me know in the comments what molds you think I am keeping. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And that video is coming Wednesday, by the way. Wednesday.